Hi, and welcome back to the Knit Guru. Now, today we're just going to talk about this blanket. This blanket, if you've been watching my shorts, has been going on for months. Like, it's massive. There'll be another shot of it in its full size, but it's nearly a queen-size bed blanket. I am going to release the pattern for it because the pattern is actually really easy. It's double-stranded, it's on 9mm needles, so it works up really quickly. Yeah. So if you're interested in making a really large blanket, which is definitely doable as a gift or a throw or just for yourself, I'll give the instructions. There'll be a link to the free pattern down below. Here I have yarn from Skeins. Now we know I love Skeins, natural yarn store. Recently, I made a baby blanket. The pattern is still yet to be released, and the reason the pattern is yet to be released is that I'm too lazy. I just haven't done it. I've been focusing on making videos rather than making patterns. So, I also now have the baby that was now then born and using its blanket, etc. Her mum is after a blanket for her bed. So I'm going to be making her mum a throw blanket out of the same yarn brand that I used for the baby blanket, except I'm doing it in colours of her choice. So now we're just going to unbox the colours so you can see what I've got. This is all Flight Merino double knit DK yarn. I'm going to be double stranding this because I do not have a lifetime to make this blanket. It's going to be double stranded. The first shade we've got here is this purple shade, and this is called Butterfly. I do love this yarn. It is very soft. The second shade we've got, this is this turquoisey tealy shade, and this is called Tui. This is really nice as well. The next shade, there are 4 in total. This one here is my receipt. This one here is a brighter shade, which is kind of nice actually. And this is Spring Azure. So a little bit fancy pants on that one. And then this one, oh, love it. This one is Dragonfly. So what I'm going to do here is noisily take one out of each packet. I'm looking at it now thinking, why don't I just get 10 balls of each one? Because then the guys at Skeins wouldn't have had to take 2 balls out of each pack just to send them to me. These are the 4 shades. They do look quite good together in sort of jewel tony blue and greens with a bit of purple there. So watch the space to see how this blanket throw unveils itself. Right, so here we are on my throw blanket so far. It could be better. I am so tangled up in this double stranding yarn. I don't normally double strand things. I normally just get the right size yarn for the needles, but I wanted to get this particular yarn for a whole stack of reasons. Right, but what I have been doing, which I thought might be interesting, is double stranding. I offset my balls. So about halfway through my first ball of yarn, I cut it off and added in my second ball of yarn, which now means that my balls of yarn are going to be running out at different times, so that when I'm darning in the ends or doing the Russian joins as I have been doing, there's not going to be a massive thick bit next to each other, that it's going to be more hidden is what I'm planning. Then what I'm thinking is that when I get to the second colour and I'm double stranding, I will have one strand of this and then one strand of the next colour for a ball of yarn, approximately, which will create the ombre. I don't know if it's going to be called an ombre. It'll create the transition between them all. What I've settled on, rather than doing a whole stack of different textured stitches, is I've just gone with this Andalusian stitch. Because I thought it just gives it just a little bit of texture, something visually interesting, but I figure with 4 different colours going together, I don't want it to be too busy. Yeah, so I'm about halfway through my purple yarn, which does mean that pulls out my tape measure. So my purple yarn, we're sitting at about 22 centimetres so far. So if that's 42 centimeters per shade, and I do some quick maths, for 16, 1.6. Can I get to 1.6? I can get to 1.5 on this. Okay, that will be okay. That will be a good size blanket. So it'll be a blanket about as tall as me, which is fine because I know how tall Liz is and she's not that tall. It will be a blanket that she could lie down and cover herself with. Okay, that sounds like a shroud. No, not a shroud. Definitely a blanket. Anyway, I'm going to get back to knitting this. This is Flight Merino, and the colour is Butterfly, and honestly, this is gorgeous. This is the stinking middle of winter, and I'm in a t-shirt. I don't even know what's going on. And yes, I look ginger right now. I went to the hairdresser this morning, and my hairdresser is a gorgeous woman, and I think that I am going to be a redhead for the next few days. Well, until the first wash. When the first wash comes out, it'll go back to being that slightly strawberry blondie colour that I've come to know and love. Well, actually, it won't. What it'll come back to is a slightly strawberry blonde with some regrowth of whatever the hell my natural hair colour is. It's been lost to time. Anyway, I should get back to knitting, then make some scones, and then I will see you later. Bye. This is the blanket that a friend of mine asked me to make for her birthday, and I've only just finished it. I need to get it off to her. This is almost queen size. There will definitely be a pattern for this one released because this was an investment in my life. I did make her a baby blanket before her baby was born, and then she was wanting a blanket for her 40th birthday that was matching but in brighter colours, but not matching, but reminiscent is what we'll go for. So this is the blanket that I made her. It's in jewel tones of purple and blue, and then this sort of sea green colour, which I think was called Flutterby, and then this one here, which is much brighter when it's off the ball, but it's such a cool colour, this sort of teal. I think it's called Spring Azure, because why wouldn't it have a really strange name? But yeah, this is a labour of absolute love because it is massive, absolutely massive. It covers my entire queen size bed, which is huge. So there's that. Right, now this blanket is double-stranded. Now the reason that it's double-stranded is it means that we can use DK weight yarn and still have it working up quite quickly. That, and we can have some cool effects when we get to the colour changes. So we're just going to demonstrate all of those. This is a 3-row repeating pattern for this Andalusian, I think it's called, stitch. So the first 3 rows is just a straight knit, then a straight purl, then a straight knit. Now we're on the 4th row where things get interesting. But by interesting, don't think they get difficult by any stretch of the imagination. So our first stitch, we're going to knit 3. So we're going to knit 1, 2, 3. Sorry, we're going to purl 3. Then we're going to knit 1. Then it's purl 3. 1, 2, 3. Then we're going to knit 1. Then we're going to purl 3. Double stranding. 2, 3. And knit 1. Purl 3. That takes us to the end of the section. Obviously on the actual blanket there's like 100 and something odd stitches, and there's a border of garter stitch on the edge, so don't follow this instruction for the actual blanket except for this Andalusian stitch in the middle. So there we've got the starts of these little bumps popping up. Now the next row, really simple, we just knit across this entire row. So we knit across this row, and then on our following row we're going to purl straight across, and then we're going to knit straight across. So we've got 3 rows where everything is just creating the stockinette stitch on the front, or the nice knitting, the knitting that looks like machine knitting. It's all neat, everything's the same. And then every 3rd row, every 4th row, there's a row of little bumps. So we'll have a look at it here, and then I will complete 2 rows off camera and come back to another Andalusian stitch row. So there we can see you've got some bumps there, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2, 3 across here. We've got 4 spaces and 3 bumps. We've got now a purl row and a knit row, and then we'll do another one of these bumpy rows, and then I'll demonstrate how we do the colour change. Right, so we're now ready for another row of our little bumps. So we're on the wrong side of the knitting, for lack of a better description, and we're going to start by purling 3, just as we did before. It's exactly the same every time we do this row. So it does make this project quite therapeutic, really, because it just happens so easily and quickly. So 3 purls, 1 knit, bring the yarn forward, 3 purls, put the yarn back, 1 knit, 3 purls, and 1 knit. Oh, and I drop all my stitches just like that. You know, don't you hate it when you're doing that and you're just trying to make a wee demonstration and everything's just gonna fall apart at the last second? There we go. 1, 2, 3. Right, now if we turn back onto the right side and forget about the fact that we dropped these ones and had to pick them up, what we'll see is that you're getting this vertical row of dots. I think this is a really cool, easy, simple texture that you can put on anything. Works fantastic in a cardigan, to be honest. Now I'll do a little bit more of this, and then we'll do the colour change with both shades in it, and then we'll just carry on with the grey, and we'll see what the overall pattern is going to be. Even though the actual blanket that I made is not these shades, I just really liked working with these. And we don't want to be working on 9mm needles in front of a camera because, well, there's no room for anything else in view, let's be completely honest. So I'll see you when I've done a few more rows and we're ready to do the colour change. Right, so the secret with this blanket is that because it's double-stranded, it allows us to do something really cool with the colour changes. So what I did was I used 2 balls of yarn that were, what were they called? Vintage, I think. Vintage? No, Flight Merino. Flight Merino from Skeins. I'll link it down below. Now, when I got halfway through the first ball, I cut it off and basically just sacrificed half a ball. Because what you want is your 2 balls to end at different times. When we get close to the first ball ending, we're going to have, or cut off, when we get close to the ball ending, we're going to have just a little bit of yarn left, and we're going to be ready with our next colour to come along. When we've got our next colour, we're just going to introduce it when it comes along. Now what I did was I did Russian joins in the yarn, to be honest, because that way I don't have to do any darning in. But for now, what we're going to do is just going to lightly tie a wee knot, because we can untie this knot and darn in the ends later if this was our real blanket. What I do is I keep these tiny swatches in my project book, and that allows me to remember how to do things that I've done in previous gifted objects particularly. Right, so now what we're doing is we're just going to continue in the pattern as we were doing, and as we get to the next colour, we're going to get 2 shades coming in at once. We're not going to worry about which side's going to come out which, because you may notice that our pairs of stitches have come out differently. We're just going to carry on knitting as normal. And this is going to create like an intermediate spot in our blanket. Now this is our pattern row. So we're just going to go 1, 2, 3, knit, purl 1, 2, 3, and then a knit, then purl 1, 2, 3, then a knit, purl 1, 2, 3. All right, so what we're seeing that we've got here is we're starting to get the pink and the grey, or whatever colours you've chosen, joining together. So I'll do a couple of rows off camera, and then we'll rejoin and we'll go to the third colour, which is just the straight grey. Right, so here what we've got is this blended shade of the 2 yarns, and it doesn't matter how similar or how dissimilar the yarns are, they kind of always just sort of blend together quite nicely, I've found. So what I've done here is simulated getting the end of the last ball of pink, and I've just attached grey to the end of the pink, just like we did before. And now seamlessly mid-row, what we're going to get is that we're now going to go straight into just the next colour. Now what this achieves is that it actually doesn't matter if you run out of yarn mid-row, end of row, anywhere you like. The transition is blended, which means that you can actually get the most out of your yarn. And because we're double stranding on double knit 8-ply weight 3 yarn on 9mm needles, it works up really quickly. So it does mean that this is a blanket that is replicable and giftable and impressive when finished. It can be done with yarn that you've purchased on sale. You can purchase each shade you want, because this one's got 4 shades in the almost queen size version that's listed. You can purchase the yarn on sale in 4 parts, so then it doesn't matter about your dye lots, because they're just going to blend together. All right, I'll do one more yarn row here, and then hopefully we'll get an idea about how the colours have transitioned together. Yeah, so this is just the last of our straight rows before we do the pattern row with the pearls and knits. It's a really fast, fun pattern to work up. Because you're only doing anything different every 3 rows, it's kind of a mindless task as well. Right, so here we go. We've transitioned from the pink through to the grey. We've got our transition sequence in the middle there, and it looks pretty good. These colours are quite dissimilar, so they stand out more than others. I made a hat for a friend of mine where I used 2 very similar shades, and as the brim finished, I changed to the other colour. So then we ended up with a different colour brim, a transition shade, and then a top, using the same sort of technique. So that's it. That's how we do the transitioning between colours. That's how we do the actual stitches. I highly recommend making this blanket either for yourself or for somebody else, because it works up really quickly.